Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to CRIMLAW TV. Today's topic is going to be malice and firearms, and whether Heller and McDonald's have changed anything.
The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
Welcome to CRIMLAW TV. I'm your host, Ken Lammers. Just before I went on vacation at the mothership, CRIMLAWblogspot.com, I had posted something about how in Virginia there's a right to an instruction, the right to arm for self-defense. And of course, I got some, several comments on this, both through email and comments directly on the blog, mostly along the lines of how terrible it is that you can infer malice when somebody uses a firearm. That that allows the Commonwealth not to have to prove things. Well, obviously that's a change from the language. They used to be able to presume malice. Infer just means that the jury can or may not decide that malice occurred just because of the use of a firearm. And the inference instruction itself is something that I think that you can argue whether there should be a general inference instruction. You can infer that things that are the natural consequences and follow naturally from these acts, or you can infer motives from acts that you see, or you can make them straight up singular inferences like this. You may infer from the use of a firearm that malice exists. And you see some instructions on all these. I think that it's safer, at least from a legal point of view, for the singular instructions, because otherwise you end up with, if you've got you can infer everything from anything instruction, you can end up with some really cuckoo arguments or out of bounds arguments. Anyway, the most cogent reply came from Bad Monkey at his blog, Bad Monkey No Biscuit, and he went through and he compares Heller and McDonald and how he thinks that none of this, that this instruction isn't going to last, isn't going to be a viable instruction any further. Well, first of all, as to the viability of this instruction, yeah, I think it's going to be a viable instruction in the future, because this is not a prosecutor's instruction. This is a defense attorney's instruction, and this is an instruction for a particular set of circumstances, basically. If a guy doesn't have a firearm and he gets threatened in some manner by another person, he goes and gets a firearm, that's when he can use this instruction. If he was carrying a firearm all along, can't really use this instruction. If he grabs a firearm from, that's sitting there on the nightstand of his girlfriend's bedroom, can't really use that instruction. It's one where he goes and seeks firearm to defend himself, or potentially defend himself, and ends up shooting someone. This is not something that you're going to see prosecutors asking for. This is something you're going to see defendants asking for, and therefore it won't get totally shut down. However, the main point that Bad Monkey's making is that he doesn't think that an instruction that malice can be inferred from a use of a firearm is viable anymore. Now, let's be straight here. There are basically only three purposeful uses of a firearm in a homicide. There's accident, which is non-purposeful, but there's murder, with malice, which is murder. There's without malice, which is manslaughter, heat of passion, and then there's self-defense. Those are your three options. Now, I think Bad Monkey's making this mistake that a lot of people are pulling out of Heller and McDonald. I mean, he's not the only person I've heard say something along these lines. A lot of people are reading a lot more into these decisions than I think that are really there. He's associating a right to bear arms with the elimination of the inference of malice and the use of those arms. And let's define what malice is. Malice, according to law.com's dictionary, is a conscious, intentional wrongdoing with the intention to cause harm to the victim. A conscious, intentional wrongdoing with the intention to cause harm to a victim. There are two primary reasons that I think the inference of malice won't go away. The first is that I work in Virginia, and in Virginia, the right to carry a firearm is taken seriously. And leaving aside concealed carry permits, in Virginia, if you want to strap on a pistol on your hip in plain sight, or a shotgun on your back in plain sight, and it's a legal weapon, and you have every right to have it, you're not a felon or anything, you can walk down the street with that. Now mind you, every police officer who drives past is going to stop. He's going to stop you and question you about what the heck's going on, but you have every right to do it. And I imagine there's quite a few states that still have this right. You know, I'm sure there are several states out west that are very proud of having this right. And it hasn't changed the inference. There's always been that inference of malice when you shoot someone. The second and really primary reason that this instruction won't go away, the inference won't go away, is because it's common sense. You know, yes, if somebody has a firearm on their hip, you know, they have that right to have the firearm. If they pull that firearm and shoot somebody in the heart or in the head or wherever, that's pretty clearly a conscious, intentional wrongdoing with the intent to harm the victim or a person. You know, now, you know, prosecutor, no doubt, has to prove malice beyond a reasonable doubt and has to show circumstances which will get it all the way there. Now, you know, that inference may be available, but if the other guy drew a firearm first, you know, who knows if that inference wins the day? You know, that, because then it's a self-defense situation. Or if they, you know, everybody starts carrying firearms all the time, like the Old West or something, and Bob walks into his bedroom and after a hard day at work and he's got his pistol on his hip and his wife's in bed with his brother-in-law and he shoots them both dead, you know, that could be heat of passion. But the reality is that in most situations, you know, malice is going to be very inferential in these situations. Now, going back to what I did say a little bit there, you know, the prosecutor's going to have to prove malice no matter what. And if we end up in a society where everyone is packing, then yes, the prosecutor is going to have a little bit of more hard time showing a difference between murder and manslaughter, because, you know, if everybody's packing, then they got that pistol in their side. If they lose their cool for a second, they could just shoot somebody. But I think the inference can carry the day in most times. Well, folks, that's it for this week's CLTV. I'm restarting this. I had gotten it up and running over at Vidler. For those of you who remember, ran it for like 2 or 3 years over at Vidler. And then they just disappeared, all my videos. Every single one of them. God bless you, Vidler. Not even a single warning. But we're going to see how well this works over here on Google. I'm going to have to be shorter, obviously, because of the 15-minute limit. But next week, we'll see what we're going to talk about then. Bye now.